Well, welcome, Mari Watanabe, to the Talkin Jazz, the virtual session. We had hoped to get together in March, had it scheduled at the
Right.
Jazz Museum, and then the thing, well, more than one thing happened.
Yes.
And,
Well,
and so I'm especially glad you're able to be with us this afternoon for this version of the virtual sessions. Mari, I want to talk to you generally about your life in music and how you got involved with it, but go all the way back to where you're from. Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Japan originally, and I joined Waseda University New Orleans Jazz Club. That's a after-school activity, but it was founded in 1957 when George Lewis went to Japan. He had so much influence. I mean, people loved him. Mm-hmm. And these young people, young students, college students, made this group to study traditional jazz. And so I joined that group when I was a freshman. And four boys and I decided to visit, then see how the New Orleans music is. And that was 1985, Mardi Gras time, actually. We went to Preservation Hall, we saw Olympia Brass Band, Kid Chic, Kid Thomas a little bit. He was not playing, but he was sitting there. He was 90-year-old. Wow. And, other people. And, I made a decision quickly to come here, then live here. And I moved 1985, December
of 85. You grew up in Tokyo?
Yes.
Well, were you interested in music as a tiny child, as a little kid?
Well, my grandmother was a piano teacher, and she taught me since I was 4. I was not really studying seriously. I'm really sorry. Actually, I think about her many times now. I'm sorry. I didn't practice then, but then I become interested in more rhythm and blues, like Otis Redding, some Kirk, some Dave, that kind of stuff in high school. So actually, in college, I was looking for people who are doing rhythm and blues, but I couldn't find it. Then I saw this New Orleans Jazz Club sign. I went in. Then here I am.
Yeah,
before that, they actually, one of my senior students, he introduced me to this album called Jazz Begins. Are you familiar with that? By Young
right.
Brass Band. Yes, Young Tuxedo Brass Band.
Right.
I cannot remember exactly, but like late 50s, live recording on the street. Right. And he told me they do this at the funeral. So that's really I wanted to see. Okay, what kind of funeral? I mean, they doing this old brass band, and actually, fortunately, we did see. I think one of last families. Some like I don't want to say long thing, but someone's funeral was there. Then it was small, but we had the experience and all those things. And I was young, so I just made a quick decision.
The music that you learned with your grandmother, what kind of things? Was it typical classical music sort of exposure?
Classical music, yes. That was classical piano.
And I read where you lost her piano. You got drowned in Katrina. Is the one with the ivory?
Oh yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I brought that piano from Japan when I moved here because after I leave, nobody gonna use it. So I spend money to bring that here, but
Right.
Katrina took it. All ivory keys were messed up.
Oh man. Well, just one of the many, many
Mhm.
losses. I know. Well, when you started listening to that New Orleans jazz there, now you weren't studying music though, were you? Aren't you in literature at college?
Yes, that Waseda University is just very one of the oldest. I think founded in late 1882. Actually, I have right here 1882. Then one of the biggest universities. Even now, I think students over 50,000.
Wow.
And uh, so this is just a regular university, but they don't have any music department. But like
Ah,
I said, this is after school activity.
right.
Students do all kinds of stuff. So.
Hmm. Well, what about your interest in literature, Mari? Were you interested in being a writer or just a reader or both?
Well, I always like to read, and but also I'm still interested in history, and but I just enrolled in uh, theater art. They are not actually acting. They study more like dramaturgy.
Right.
That started in sophomore year. But I was so into this traditional jazz and socializing with these musicians. So I was not really studying.
Well, were you able with some of your classmates, were you guys trying to learn these tunes that you were hearing?
Yes, I don't know how they're doing now, but most of them are actually beginners. They introduced this club as a I think they have modern jazz club and big band and like Latin music
Hmm.
and New Orleans jazz club. This is four of
Wow.
them, and they say we can you can start as a beginner. It's not complicated as modern jazz. So that's they saying that so many beginner or people who never really touch instruments, they
Right.
that kind of people join. But we did like I would say we run about 10-20 songs per year, and some advanced people who have experience I was uh, join other more like adult was also there's some adult amateur musicians, but
Right.
they're studying and playing music, so I join them sometimes.
So you got a little chance to play some of the music
Some, yes.
before you actually moved here and had to try to make a living doing it.
Right. Well, it's not much though. It's not much, but yes, I had. Well, I just said that's introduction.
Yeah, right. Well, what about writing music? I know that's something you've been interested in as well. When did you start doing that?
I studied with Roger Dickerson, and he's a composer. He's a great pianist, but also composer. He
Yeah.
always encouraged me to write a song, and I did some. Have not really done too much. Last song I composed was uh, my husband band Baritone Bliss. They played it. Well, we played at Jazz Fest. It's
Uh-huh.
called The Tour. But I don't have too many chances to write the music. But I did write and arrange all songs in my CD though.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's the one that we're talking about, the one that came out in what, 2005? What?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. Well, Roger, what a great experience to just be around the guy. He's so knowledgeable in so many things, but
Right.
great composer too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. And I hear from so many of his students, he's very effective as a teacher.
Yes, yes. He has a special method too. So
Yeah. Well, so you come here in 1985 in December. Um, where did you set up? Where did you live, and how did you begin to break into the how did you begin to make your way onto the music scene?
In those days, many European musicians were here, and they were actually actively playing around town. And Chris Buck, English clarinet player, great guy. He hired me a lot, and I did not know too many tunes because I came from Japan. Like I said, that was just introduction. So right. I had to learn many songs. He had this gig every weekend at the gazebo on the Decatur Street.
Right.
And he had the Wendell Brunis or Chris Clifton, no bass, Barry Martin on drums, and Wendell and Chris both. Chris Buck and Chris Clifton, they all know so many tunes. So what I did, they tell me the song title. I said, well, I don't know that, but I get that next week. And I look for, those days there were no YouTube, so I have to look for music or ask around, and that's how I get more broaden my repertoire. But they were patient with me. Wendell's still talking about it, Thank you. But they were really patient with me, and they taught me a lot.
Well, it's kind of like you got your homework assignment there on the bandstand. Look that one up.
That's a biggest opportunity. But all the musicians I encountered, they taught me. They taught me, and I was eager to learn. I show I'm interested, and so they were happy to teach me.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a lot of I think European artists in town at that time. Who were some of the people you met then and worked with then, in addition to the ones we talked about?
Well, through Chris Buck, like Sammy Leamington, he came around, and Frank Nondorf was not he did not come too much, but I met Clive Wilson back then, Lars Edgren. I used to sit around him and write down chord change.
Is that like behind Lars?
That's how I studied. And who else? I can't think about it.
Orange Kellen, was he around in those days?
Yes, Orange Kellen. And some of them don't come anymore. I can't think. But also I met John Simmons back then too.
Yeah.
Actually, he took us around when we came first time in '85.
Mr. Simmons did.
Mr. Simmons, yes. Actually, the year before, 1984, Kid Chic band came. Kid Chic, Chester Jones, Benny Jones' father, Michael White, Freddie Lonzo, Buddy Charles, James Prevost, was that all? So, and then John Simmons and his wife, Miss Dolly, they came with them. So I met them then.
That was you met them in
Japan, yes.
In Japan, in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a pretty good group of folks to get to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Did you find you already talked about how patient these like Wendell and Chris and those guys were with you. You found the community fairly welcoming, Mari, when you came here?
Yes, I would say so. Mm-hmm. I was by myself, but yes, they were really nice to me. And after that, around 87, I met Greg Stafford, and I dared to say to him, "I'd like to pray with you." And he remembered that. After that, he got a gig at the other side of gazebo. He used to call Mediterranean Cafe.
All right.
He had 5-piece band, 6-piece band, can't remember. But he had that every weekend, and he had a Sadie Goodson as a piano player, but she went out of town a lot. So when she's out, when she was out, I played. I took place. There I met, well, I already knew Michael, but Leroy Jones, Shannon, Joe Lasty, David Greer, who else? I don't want to miss them and get mad, but you know, Lucian, of course, Lucian Barbary.
Yeah.
So
the great, well, all of them are outstanding.
And that friendship is still going on since then.
Yeah. Well, you'd been very interested in the blues as a youngster. Did you find more people here that shared that interest?
Yes, actually, I guess it still is now, but on like private function, or small club in neighborhood, they were playing more like mixed bag, and rhythm and blues also, New Orleans rhythm and blues also, and I met Sullivan Dabney. He's a drummer, great singer, and when we played, I remember I asked him, do you sing Otis Redding? He said, yeah, Dock of the Bay. That was my favorite. Then he sang. So wow, I was listening to this song in high school. Then now I'm playing song with in New Orleans. Not just him. Alvin Charles.
Right. Yeah.
He was a great singer too. He sang that. Also, they were calling Jean-Pierre Dog. He's
Wilbert Arnold.
Yes. He sang that song great too.
Yeah. He played with Walter for
and
many,
then
many years.
Olympia Brass Band. That's I cannot go without talking about it. Olympia Brass Band. When we saw them first time, those mixed sound with traditional jazz, brass band, then also rhythm and blues.
Right.
That was my favorite. I mean, that really knocked me off. And later on, Milton Baptiste hired me for some gigs. I did even one jazz fest with him. His Magnificent Seventh.
Right.
He had Annie Cato, Jesse Hill, and Lady Teddy. And Jesse Hill, I think that could be even his last performance.
Wow.
And Annie Cato. Then I had to study Alan Toussaint stuff, and then I realized, Alan Toussaint's piano and Sing Miller's like backing, the chord change is similar. I would say generally New Orleans musicians, they just play all kinds of stuff. They don't really vary. They don't say, I play only jazz. They play all kinds of stuff as they need it. So that's how I learned it. I have to study. I must study everything.
Yeah, and there's a wide range of things here to get involved with too.
And actually, it sounds, sounds same. I mean,
right, same 12 notes, right?
Right.
And what we do with them is the fun.
Mm-hmm.
So you had, and I know you played, have been on the brass band scene some. You still lead the Chosen Few?
Well, that's really Tuba Fats, who really helped me a lot. Well, before the, like I say, Olympia Brass Band, Harold Dejan. Yes, but actually all of the Olympia Brass Band, all members, they helped me a lot, and even Doc Watson, he helped out too. But also later on, his wife and my husband, my mother-in-law, they are first cousin, so that's like my cousin. And before he passed away, he put me in this church gig I still have it. I mean, right now I'm not playing, but I still have the church gig. But anyway, so Tuba Fats, he was he invited me to play with him in the street in Jackson Square, and I had a little spin-up piano and put wheels on it and roll over to Jackson Square every day. I was playing with him from 1989 to 95 or 6.
Right.
And yes, he's the one really. Without him, I won't be here. And then Benny Jones, he just formed Tremere Brass Band, and they had a jam session every week at Sydney's on St. Bernard every Tuesday. So I started going there. They had piano there too back then. So I getting associated with Tremere Brass Band. So,
and you got to get the feel at the piano for a lot of that repertoire then as well.
Yes, like I say, my beginning was jazz begin. I always liked the sound with tuba. So, and I studied chord change to go with, rhythm to go with, listen to bass drum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When did you meet Mr. Roger Lewis?
I think on that's when I was on play with Tuba Fats, I think.
In that period when you were playing with tuba?
Yes, around 89, 90. Mm-hmm.
Did you all become friends right away?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Eventually, though.
Yeah, well, he was playing with James Andrews.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, we Tuba Fats band was on this side of Jackson Square. Actually, then, but 4 or 5 different bands. So Tuba Fats, James Andrews with his gang, and New Birth Brass Band, New Orleans Rascals, maybe a couple more. Everybody came to Jackson Square, and then we were just playing one after another.
Right.
And most bands were really louder than us. I mean, we have piano, and also my friend, banjo player Hiro, was playing, so we couldn't play too loud.
Right.
But especially James band, when they started playing on the other side of Jackson Square, Roger Lewis, Stackman, Frederick Shepherd, Ephraim Towns, and James, and Boogie on drums. Oh, that was so loud. We had to stop. We used to hate it. We couldn't play. We couldn't make. Then they took all money, so we couldn't make any money.
Oh man.
Sometimes she would say, "Oh, okay, let's come today. We come early tomorrow." That's what we did. So.
Was Roger playing tenor in that band or? No,
baritone. They had this whole saxophone. So Frederick Shepherd and Stackman played tenor. He played baritone.
Mm-hmm. I know I was listening this morning to a record you'd made, I think around the time you maybe finished your tenure with tuba, with Willie Humphrey and Norbert Susamil. And
oh yes, that's before the that's actually like the end of my era with European musicians.
Oh, okay.
Play with them all the time. So that was Norbert Susamil, Emil Martin, and then we had Willie Humphrey. That was a nice recording though.
Yeah, very. I really enjoyed it. Everybody sounded very good on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I was saying the end of that era for me was because they usually did not have bass player. They rather have drummer. So like horns, 1 horn or 2 horns, and the piano and the drums. So I had to play bass line.
Do a lot of bass line work, yeah.
Right. But after that, so actually to transition from that to playing with tuba Fats or great stuff, it took me for a while. One day I realized, oh, tuba is playing bass line, so I don't have to play this bass.
That's right.
Well, that you know, but that was this really. Then when I saw, I stopped doing that. Then tuba smiled at me. You see, New Orleans musicians, they don't tell me. They teach you, but they don't tell you. You know.
Right.
So
They let you
yeah,
figure it out for
find out.
yourself.
But when I found out and I stopped playing bass line, I just listened to tuba bass line. Then I go on that. I went on that. Then he smiled and said, "You got it." Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So this is how this all comes together.
Right.
Well, did you ever have a time, Mari, in all these years here now that you second guessed your decision to come? It seems like you've been pretty. It's been pretty solid for you here.
Yes. Yes. I never thought about going home or anything. I just stay here. Actually, when I started playing with tuba, I had personally I had some change, and it could be an option for me to go home. But when I told tuba, I said, well, I don't have family here. What should I do? Then Tuba Fats said, we are your family. He said that. I said, okay. So I stayed.
Yeah. Well, that's I always felt that when people come here with an open heart and an open mind and are willing to listen and learn, that the community is very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yes.
if you bring the right attitude and are willing to mind your P's and Q's while you try to figure out what the hell is going on here, because it's completely different from any place you've ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's a great place and a very welcoming place.
Of course, I still find many things, many new things, even now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are layers to the creative life here.
Right.
That are like an onion. You peel one away, but there's another one underneath it.
That's the way to express. Yes.
Yeah. Well, to talk about some of the folks you've had a chance to work with. I know you played, like we alluded to this a little bit. I mean, with the Milton Baptiste Magnificent Seventh, and getting to play with Kato and
yes,
and Jesse Hill. That's a lot, interesting. But you've had a lot of other experiences too. I mean, with a variety of things. Talk about just some of those playing experiences you remember.
Well, I cannot go without Danny Barker. That's another guy, another person. I won't be here without him. I talked about this at the Danny Barker Fest before, but I did not know too much about him. But he passed by when I was playing with Chris Buck in the French Quarter. Then he said, "You sound good, but out the 9th, raised 11th and 13th." And I have to think a minute. Then, he's talking about tension chords, more complicated chord, more complicated harmony. And I studied. Since he said that, I studied. And next time he passed by, he said, "Okay, you sound better. Now, do you have a keyboard?" And back then, in late 80s, many small clubs, even like those outside venue, they had a piano, they had a spinner piano, or even upright piano. So not too many people think about bringing keyboard. Not too many pianists thought about it. But since he says so, I got this portable keyboard. Then he actually did hire me, and since then he helped me in different ways. And before he passed away, he told me to tend to your business, tend to my business. Then I did not know the expression. Then the guy, who was sitting by his bed, he said, in other words, keep working. I said, okay. And I'm doing, I'm still doing.
So
Try to
you,
keep
yeah,
working.
like another endorsement, very much like Mr. Lacen's, we are your family.
Right.
And then Mr. Barker tells you, keep at it,
Mm-hmm.
keep plugging.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of encouragement we all need, but it's particularly good when it comes from people of that
Yes.
stature.
Right.
It means that much more.
Mm-hmm.
So, when do you remember when that was? What year you first when he was passing by and catching you? Was in that that was in the
Well,
early
so
'90s, maybe? Or
no. So that was at the gazebo.
oh,
With
okay, that's much
so
earlier.
it must be like 86
Okay,
or
right in there.
no later than, yes, I think 86.
All right. And do you remember when he first hired you?
I cannot think the exact year, but probably 87 or 88. They had friend in French market at the Dutch Alley. They have different bands every Sunday afternoon.
Right.
I think it was funded by Musicians Union, and Mr. Barker had a gig maybe every other month or once a month, and he hired me. So, and then after
Right.
I started playing with him, other people, uh, like John Simmons, he was doing that too. And I can't think right now, but I played quite many people over there
Mm-hmm.
with my keyboard. Then later on, the piano I had at the Jackson Square. Maybe Michael White.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, someone else you worked with who I've loved her work for years. She almost never plays clubs, but has played the street for years. Is Doreen Keshins.
Oh yes. Well, I remember when first time Doreen and Lawrence came, they um, they were I think um, they were different. I mean, they did not look wild. Doreen did not look wild, nice and pretty.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was 4 or 5 bands tried to fight the praise and play louder. So they went to Loyal Street and play nice and quiet, just 2 of them. But every now and then they call me and see if I can come out with them. So I brought keyboard over there and play at the in front of Wide Fishery.
Right.
And right now they're playing by the Louds on Royal Street, but uh, before that, and then she had some nice private party gigs too. So I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a great player. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And a
Yeah.
good singer too. Yeah.
Yes.
She's really mastered the lessons of the street, I think,
Right. Mm-hmm.
very effectively, as your one of your colleagues, Mr. Anthony Lacen, had as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, Mari, who have you been working with lately? What kind of things have you been up to in the last year or so?
Well, I've been working at the Palm Court and the Preservation Hall. Now, of course, they hire musicians, so musicians usually don't have like band leaders like other gigs. But uh, I was playing mostly with Lucian Barberin, uh, Shannon Powell, Greg Stafford, Joe Lasty, Louis Ford,
Mm-hmm.
and I was busy doing that, most of the week. Then Special Preservation Hall start doing this workshop for kids, workshop
Oh,
for
cool. Yeah.
music students. Even before Katrina, I think they really started before Katrina, but lately they had, but well, they already have like 3-4 different bands to do just workshop. But I was doing that maybe once or twice a week, or sometimes more a day during daytime, and the nighttime. I was regular with Lucian Barber in Thursday night at the Preservation Hall. Now Kevin Lewis took over.
Good.
And Palm Court, also Kevin Lewis is band leader. And then I mentioned earlier, I'm playing at the St. Catherine Drexel Church on Louisiana Avenue. They used to call Holy Ghost. It's founded over 100 years ago by St. Catherine Drexel. And Doc Watson and his wife, Miss Annabelle, put me there. Yeah. And I'm still doing it. Right now, I'm not doing it, but I'm still with them.
One of these days, we hope these things will resume.